the things that I speak about, and God has created a platform for me ever since my release in December 2000, January 15th, Martin Luther King's birthday massive celebration in Richmond, Virginia. I was speaking before 3,500 people, not knowing that God would open doors such as that. But I tell people, be careful what you pray for, because I can remember when I turned myself in 7 months pregnant and was crying out to God to spare me from my situation, not knowing what was going to happen, and to use me to help other people from going through similar situations, let other people hear my story. I never thought that he would have turned things around 360, where I hadn't even been out of prison 30 days, and he had me speaking before audiences. I do this because I'm being obedient to God and his purpose for bringing me out of the belly of the beast. Because understand that even though I'm going to share certain aspects about my story is not a unique one. There are hundreds of other Timber Smiths who are still sitting in federal prison serving 10, 20, 40, 50, even life sentences, still incarcerated in federal prison. But because number one, I love our youth. And it broke my heart to be in prison. And when I was transported from county jail into federal prison and wearing my handcuffs and shackles and orange jumpsuit, it broke my heart to see most of the people that look like you and me boarding airplanes and being shipped off to different federal institutions. So I couldn't walk out of seeing all of what I had seen and not come out and share what it is that I've seen with others. And I want to especially thank Veronica Douglas and what's your married husband? Givan, I want to pronounce it right. Because see, it took a lot of strategizing, organizing in order for me to be standing here. To receive executive clemency from President Clinton is something that doesn't happen every day. And it was people like Veronica, and I'm grateful for the position that God put her in and the compassion that she had in her heart as a reporter. Because those type people are what helped me get out. Because had it not been for the Emerge article that first came out, which you'll see more about in the video clip, had it not been for other people who were in journalistic and reporting, working for different news television shows that had compassion for my situation, I could very well still be sitting in prison. But they helped garner national support. So I want to thank you, Veronica, for that continued support. Because when they came to visit me, I'm their only child. And they made a conscious decision that they were going to do whatever they needed to do to bring their baby girl home. But then when they would come into the prison and come to visit me and see other mothers and other children coming to visit their mother, my dad was just like, this is a disgrace. Why are these women wasting away in federal prison? I understand that people make mistakes, but mistakes that's going to cost them 20, 40 years of their lives where they won't get to see their children grow up to be adults. So my dad made a conscious decision that not only was he going to speak out about me, but he was going to speak out about for the other women that he saw that deserved to be home too, that were first-time nonviolent drug offenders. So I thank my parents for that seat. I'm grateful that Reverend Dr. Bennett is having me here in the church to speak about my testimony, but there's some of our black churches that don't want to deal with this issue. They want to act like it's not going on out there in the streets. But it's important for us to know what's going on so we can speak about these particular issues. And, I'm not here to say that no punishment was deserved. That's not my place. I'm not saying that, people that get involved in that lifestyle should just do 3 years or something like that in prison. But my point is the time that's being given to us as people of color is ridiculous. And the United States Supreme Court has said, as it relates to crack versus cocaine sentencing, that we're the ones that are being disproportionately sentenced. And essentially crack cocaine and powder cocaine are the same substance, except it's just cosmetically made differently. But we're the ones that are suffering the most. So I'm just trying to bring some humanness to the situation as far as continuing to share my story. But I like to show a video clip, and I know you feel like I'm being long-winded because I know I only have a certain amount of time. But I like to show a video clip because some, especially young people, young ladies in the room may just see this lady in a suit, you know, saying that she's been through something, but she looked good now, so it must not have been that bad. But I like for you to see visually me in prison, so you can see what the struggle was and miracle for me to be here today. Because sometimes also we as women can see somebody, a woman walk by and turn our nose up and say, she must think she's all that. She's switching and got her head up and think she's cute. But I often tell young ladies that you don't know what a person's journey has been for them to be walking where they are on that day. So it's my continuous goal. I'm going to always walk with my head up, regardless of what I've been through. And I've heard any woman that has been through anything to do so, you know, and forget about the haters, because you know how far God has brought you. But this video was done while I was incarcerated. You'll be introduced to my parents. You'll be introduced to my son, who is a toddler then, who's now 14. He'll be 15 in December. But I'll continue my presentation directly after that. If you could start the clip, please.
Feels good. What it does, therefore, is it means when I am here to talk to you, I know what I'm paying. I know the extreme cost that I'm paying, and more importantly, I know the extreme cost that my children are paying. They did not ask to be my sons. That wasn't their choice. I shudder the day that they one day say that they wish they went to my school versus being my sons. That they wish they were an audience that I was speaking to instead of being someone who I live with. I wish that was the case. I wish there was a way for me, I shudder to see that. I wish there were a way for me to explain to them as young as they are that I don't mean to miss those things that they know that are important to them. I know that Mason figures because he knows we like to read together. So he got a book for me for my birthday. He got me a book for my birthday. My other son got me this tough stuffed animal that sings a song for me. But what Mason did was he got me a book, and the name of the book is What Dads Do with Sons. Happy birthday to me. There's nothing good about that. Brothers, I got to let you understand that in order to get to this place, there's a real cost. There's a cost that no amount of money can ever repay. I told you I went to work on Tuesday, and I woke up. I say wake up like I sleep, but when I got out of bed, I looked down the hall and I saw my son's rooms, and then I saw everything. Every graduation, every football game, every baseball game, every track meet, everything. Every inconsequential conversation, every question I didn't know the answer to, everything. I often have to question myself, why do I do this? What is it about me that makes me do this? I remember no easy way to fly from Hartford to Toledo, just so you understand. No direct flights. No. Trust me on this one. Sure. So I was in Toledo. And when I was finished speaking, I had some men come up to me. And a lot of these brothers had lived on the other side of the law. And they came up to me afterwards, and it's the only I've never had this conversation in public before, just so you understand. It's at the request of Dr. Bennett that I'm doing this because I believe that it's something that you need to understand, that there's a cost. So when I tell you to do something, I'm telling you to do it because I'm paying the cost, because I need some help. That's why I'm telling you. Okay, just so you understand, I'm not just calling you out. You got to understand that I like my kids too. I like to see them too. I like sitting around with nothing to do. I do. I really do. Don't get it twisted. But there's not enough of us doing enough so that some of us can get some time off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a little background before I tell you some other things. So I finished in Toledo. Pastor, I know you can understand this. When a man comes up to another man and says to him, I'm like, very imperfect brother. My wife and I fought all weekend. Surprise. We fought on Friday.
Yeah.
What day is it today?
Thursday.
We might still be fighting. So I want to put a back date on it so far. We're still in negotiations for into the fight.
Yeah.
So I know that I struggle with the responsibilities of being this dude who some people, you get to see parts of it, right? CNN does a really good job, right? But you don't, you may not. You do understand that you got to understand that I understand the challenges. So when some brother says to me, well, I got kids, that's why I can't volunteer. Man, you're lucky I'm in the church and the kids are around. Because that's not cool. It's not appropriate for just some of us to take the responsibility that all of us need to take a piece of. The problems that we face are so large that if each one of us reached in and pulled out our piece, there'd still be some left in the middle that we'd all scratch our heads and wonder who left it there. So we need all hands on deck, but I need you to understand that I understand the cost of getting on deck.
Yeah.
I need you to understand I pay that cost every day. There's no travel. Make it so that I can leave the house at 10 o'clock. And I'll do everything I can to get my boys in bed. But they know. Kids know. They know something's up. Not just because they see the bag, because I have a place that I put the bag.
Yeah.
But they know something's up. So when Mason and Walker, my other son, are now both sitting in the window looking out, waving, that doesn't make me feel good. What that means is it makes me more focused. It makes me more focused every single day because I'm telling you every single day, every single hour that I've cost my children, brothers, I need your help. We need your help. No one of us is in a position to give up that much time. Nobody put that much time in with their kids that they can just give it up. That they are that much in the black. That they put that much time in with their kids that they can just pull up. Not one of us has that as an opportunity. So that night as I sat there in Toledo, again alone, because you hear travel, it's alone. I mean, ain't nobody there with me. There's no good, it can make the hotel rooms as big as they want or as small as they want, still by yourself. By the time I get there, there's no one even to call. There's nothing to discuss. Just me. So as I sit there with my thoughts, I hear this man who I know who had been on the other side of the law for so long and he had done so many things that he was not necessarily proud of, tell me that after 45 minutes of something that I had said, he felt like his life had been changed. As I sat there in my room, this is the honest to God truth, I need you to understand this. As I sat there in my room, I began to cry. I don't even know how to cry. I stopped crying when I was 12. I was told that boys didn't cry, so I just stopped. Wanted to be as much of a boy as I could, played sports, so figured the only time you cry is if somebody dies, right? It's the only appropriate. They can't take it. So there in that room I wept. Seeing the responsibility that I had and the limitations that I had. That here this man was looking to me to enrich his life, and my life felt at that point so empty. I say this to you not to gather your empathy, but to get you to understand that I have empathy for you. When I tell you, with all due respect to the superintendent, that Bridgeport schools are horrible, and they need to be changed forever, immediately, right now, and you need to do it, I don't have time to hear what you think you have to do, that you may have to sacrifice in order to get it done. Because I know already. Don't tell me. Please don't tell me. Please don't tell me. Or do so in a church in front of children. Because I can't be polite to you. Because I know that no movement has ever been occupied by people who had nothing to do. Every single movement has been occupied by brothers and sisters who had responsibility, who were fathers and teachers and preachers and attorneys and deans. And something responsible to do and something someone expected them to do. When I tell you that you in this room have the power to transform the educational circumstances under which your children are currently existing, I mean that. When I tell you that the teachers' unions are killing our responsibility, they're cutting off the air to our children by making the days short and the responsibilities even less, you gotta believe me. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm a brother who sees that we have some needs. When I'm talking to you about what we can do, I'm saying so because I'm doing it. Not because I'm so great, it's because I'm a regular dude who can't stand to see our children doing without. I've seen too many children, 14, 15 years old, struggling to read a basic text. Blame the parents all you want. But if my son, or when my sons are going to the piano teacher, the last thing I want to hear Mr. Jason tell me is, Dr. Perry, if you were a better pianist, your sons would be better piano players. You're fired, Mr. Jason. Have a nice life. That's his job to teach them that. Our job is to make for a comfort home, but in our responsibility, we need to make sure our schools meet our needs. It's unconscionable that it's almost guaranteed in the state of Connecticut that African American children are going to go to some of the worst schools in America. That we have the greatest achievement gap. That means the distance between the performance of black kids and white kids in the whole country. The distance between where African American children fall and where white children fall is so great that no other state in the United States of America has it.
Say that again, Doc.
The distance between where our children are, African American children, and where white children are in Connecticut, the distance is so great that no other state in the United States of America comes close. I will give you, for instance, there are some schools in towns like Bridgeport and Hartford and Waterbury where the mastery on the state standards examinations in subjects such as math is 10%. 10%. 90% of the children in that school do not meet goal in math. 90%. 90%. That's at the point of a test. So figure of the 10% that did, if you let them hold on to that information, how much of that will go away? 90%. I'm one of the few people who you will ever talk about teachers unions, because I need you to understand that this group that seemed like it should have been an ally, a natural ally. Think about it. The NAACP uses their platform as their own. That's right, brothers who are in the NAACP. Y'all have been co-opted by the AFT, which is the American Federation of Teachers, and NEA, National Education Association. They literally pay for you guys to take their stance. And what is their stance? They're against charter schools. They're against magnet schools. They make that very clear. In Connecticut, the only schools that have shown any progress for African American children are what? Charter and magnet. Charter and magnet schools are the only schools, and I will say this again, the only schools in the state, the only schools in the state that have shown any growth. In fact, in many of these schools, the achievement gap has been closed. There is no achievement gap. Amistad has no achievement gap. None. Their students perform on par with suburban students. Capital Prep, the school that I started. Some of our scores are on par with the white kids in Greenwich and Farmington. But our dear friends in the teachers union are against these schools. They fight them. They want all of our children to go to the same raggedy schools that they've always gone to. And then when a child goes to that school for 187 days and comes out still can't read, it's your fault. It's the parents' fault. It's the kids' fault. Kids don't want to listen. I say to teachers all the time, you can't get kids to listen quick. You're grown. You're in charge. You can't get somebody who's little or big, but younger to listen. You're in the wrong profession. There's nothing to discuss. Kids want to listen. They most certainly want to listen. They just want to listen to somebody who they think loves them and is going to work hard for them. I hear the superintendent talk about what this district doesn't have because of the resources. This is, again, with all due respect to him, it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. Let me tell you what I mean by that. More money is spent in the hood per pupil than anywhere else. Really? Look at some of the suburbs. Who else is spending almost $15,000 a pupil? $15,000 a pupil. So the money is there. The resources are there. It's just that we are not spending them wisely. All of us would pay more for a good public education if it were what? Good. The reason why I travel the country and I talk about these issues is because I understand that my children need to go to a good school too. But more important than that, I understand that your children need to go to a good school. I know that we have the power to transform our circumstances. We can sit here and we can talk about what white people are doing to us, or what the government is doing to us, what the man is doing to us. But what are we doing for us? What are we doing to improve our own community? What bold and drastic steps are we prepared to take? We say that the kids don't respect us. What do we do to make them respect us? Generations before put their lives on the line for what they believed in. What has this generation done? What has my generation done? What have we put on the line? 401ks? I mean, what have we been willing to pay? What has been our great cost? What burden do we wish to bear? Because nothing great is given to anybody. There's no such thing as a strong school system in a weak community. I say this Bridgeport to you, so you hear me loud and clear with all due respect, brothers. If our school systems are weak, what is that telling us about the men in our community? If our children are killing one another and maiming one another, and if our children believe for even a moment that they have a greater chance of being a professional basketball player, something that they have literally a 1 in a million chance of getting, than they do of being a professional. Then what does that say about us? If our kids are more willing to have children than to have a future, if our kids are more willing to have children than to be children, then what does that say about us? At some point, we have to acknowledge that our community is a clear reflection of who we are. If we don't understand that we have the power in numbers as small as these to move the community forward, then I need you to only become students of history. The Great March on Washington, the Great March on Washington, the I Have a Dream, that Great March on Washington. More people go to a Michigan football game on the weekend than went to that March on Washington. More people go watch Tennessee Volunteers play at home than did go to that March on Washington. Just over 100,000 people were said to have been there that day. Movements great and small have started in spaces far less auspicious than these. There was no elevator in those spaces and no air conditioning units. There were not doctors and lawyers and educators and concerned people there. They were just people. The Montgomery bus boycott started in the church. If the church has been the center of our social movements, then at what point do we remember that the civil rights movement began as a march for education? If you want to understand what limited access to an education does to a community, I ask you to consider this. Or Darfur. If African American children were compared internationally, they would fall right around Palestine. Black kids in America, in this America, at $14,000 a pupil, in schools that are compulsory. That means every single one of them's got to go. Keep these kids home and somebody's going to lock you up. Keep these kids home and someone's going to lock you up. Even though we have proof that in Connecticut schools, African American children, the longer they stay in our schools, are actually declining. How can our children believe in us when we send them to schools that we know don't work? I don't care that they used to have a good basketball team. How many kids from that state championship basketball team are going to college?